All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of the podcast. I kind of went off my schedule a little bit with this one. I wanted to do a every other day episode schedule. I think that was going to work out best for me. But obviously, with finals week kind of coming to a head and just all the studying, I really studied the most I've ever studied in a long time for the set of finals. But it is almost over. I'm 3 down, 1 more to go, but the next one's a little less serious comparatively in terms of study material and all that. But anyway, I hope everyone's final season is going well or is over, preferably. But it went fine. There's a few that I got my grade back on one of them, and it wasn't too terrible. It was actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be. So I hope everyone had a relatively less stressful time than at least I did, because I was incredibly stressed. Anyway, I finally got around to watching Red 1 today, the $350 million Christmas blockbuster that has come out and kind of got review bombed into the ground. I really didn't hear anything good about it. It has a pretty stacked cast. There were a lot of people that I didn't know were in it. I knew J.K. Simmons was in it. I knew The Rock was in it and Chris Evans. But there were some other people. I don't remember her name, but Sabrina, the Teenage Witch, was in it. She was kind of the antagonist. And there were just... Lucy Liu was in it. There were just a lot of random actors that I didn't know was in it, which makes sense. I mean, the movie cost $250 million. So, I would hope that the cast is stacked, or like over $250 million. Anyway, very expensive movie, didn't make its money back in the box office, but it was getting review bombed. I mean, everywhere I saw, it was pretty much like, hey, this movie sucks. And I know that there were apparently some issues with filming, and it went beyond schedule, and people weren't showing up, and there were a bunch of issues with it. So it kind of seemed like a doomed production. But I finally watched it. I watched it today. Me and my girlfriend watched it, and my girlfriend liked it. But she liked Christmas movies. I think I said on the first episode of the podcast that I'm not really a huge fan of Christmas movies, but we did watch it, and I didn't think it was the worst movie I've ever seen. A lot of people and a lot of the reviews I saw were pretty harsh, kind of just like, this movie's terrible, one of the worst Christmas movies ever made, etc., etc. I didn't think it was that bad. It was I was kind of shitting on it for the first half, first 45 minutes. It's a long movie, by the way. It's 2 hours. It's like 2 hours and 5 minutes, which I guess is about normal movie length now, but I figured that movie would be, hour and a half, hour 45, but I guess they wanted it to be... Sorry, drinking my coffee. I guess they wanted it to be a longer cut. But also, I didn't know it was an Amazon movie. I'm assuming because the budget went so probably above what was expected, they put it out in the box office to try to recoup that directly, and it just didn't really work out. But it's number 1 on Amazon, whatever that means. Since they don't post streaming numbers, I have no fucking clue what that means, but it's doing well on streaming, at least from what I can tell. But anyway, I think I gave the movie like a 6 out of 10. It wasn't amazing. I think that, oddly enough, it cost so much money and it was really ambitious, but it really, like, the CGI didn't look that great for how much the movie was, But I will say the set design was really cool. I thought that the set design was fun. I thought the idea was fun. I think that it was, and I guess I'll go back to my other point, was I was watching it and I was shitting on it for the first like 45 minutes. And then my girlfriend was like, well, this isn't for you, like, this is for kids. Like, overall, the movie's not for your age range. You know what I mean? And it kind of took me a second to think about it. And I guess I was making the same mistake that I kind of am critical about critics, which is, critics will shit on a movie so much, but it's like, well, it's not supposed to be a fucking work of art. You know what I mean? Like, I remember, because comedy movies were pretty big when I was a kid, and they kind of came back up in '07, like Knocked Up, Pineapple Express, and those movies were doing well. But from what I remember, kind of after that golden era of like Seth Rogen comedy that popped up, it started to just get like comedy movies were just getting review bombed after review bombed, and people just wouldn't see it because I would read reviews and it would kind of just be like, oh, well, this movie sucks. It has no cohesive plot and all this stuff. But it's like, well, it's a comedy movie. Like, it's not meant to be, it's not Oppenheimer. You know what I mean? It's not meant to be this grand spectacle of a viewing. It's meant to make you laugh and have a good time. And I guess I was kind of stuck in my ways a little bit. And I don't usually make this mistake, but I made it with this one. And I think it kind of proved to me like, oh, I was kind of influenced by the reviews a little bit. Because the first half, I was like, God, this movie's terrible. But then, she said like, well, it's for kids. It's not for you. If you were a kid watching this, you'd probably love it. And so with that in mind, I gave it like a 6. Because I probably wouldn't watch it again. And it's definitely not going to be like a Christmas rotation movie, I don't think. But I mean, if you're a kid and you're watching that, it was probably really fun to watch. And it seemed like they tried to add some things in for the adult audience too, like some jokes and a bit of, tasteful language. But overall, I actually think that the concept was fun. And to be fair, it wasn't like any other kind of average Christmas concept that I've seen before. So I gotta give that to them. But I guess my overall consensus on it was that it actually wasn't that bad. I will say I'm not a huge fan of The Rock. I know that that's probably a bit, I don't know if that's an unpopular opinion anymore, actually. I never really liked The Rock. And I'm not saying that to be, he made a crazy career for himself. I'm not trying to shit on his career. I just don't think, I was never really a fan of the movies he was in. Even the Jumanji stuff, I didn't really like those movies, or at least the newer Jumanjis, and so I haven't really been a fan of The Rock. To be fair, I didn't see Black Adam. I know a lot of people didn't like Black Adam. That's the movie, right? I'm not just racist, right? It's called Black Adam, right? Okay, it was called Black Adam. Okay, I was just making sure that I wasn't just being racist. But yeah, I didn't watch Black Adam, and I know that he caught a lot of flack for kind of that period of time and that movie kind of being a flop. And it kind of seems like he's had a bit of misses lately. Obviously, aside from I'm sure Moana 2 did well, and I'm sure that live action one will do well, but it kind of seems like his choices of projects haven't been working out too well. In terms of public, I guess, what am I trying to say? Opinion, I guess, in terms of public opinion, it seems like people haven't really been enjoying what he's been putting out, but I'm sure he's making a shitload of money still, so who really gives a fuck? But yeah, Red One, not the worst movie I've ever seen, not the best movie I've ever seen. I will say, the longer the movie went on, I kind of went okay, I get why this was $350 million, because it's pretty ambitious, and there is a lot of, I would assume, a very expensive CG, very big CG sets that they had to create for this movie. But I also say the practical sets and effects were really good. Some of the, sorry, my nose is stuffy. Some of the actual, the normal sets were really impressive. There's a sequence towards the latter half of the movie, around end of second act, beginning of third act, that I actually thought was really cool looking. And I don't know. And even kind of dealing with the North Pole, it sounds so fucking weird talking about this out loud, but the set of the North Pole I thought was really fun and interesting. And honestly, J.K. Simmons, which oddly enough, I'm not trying to spoil it, if you're mad about Red One spoilers, but the J.K. Simmons didn't really show up that much. He was in maybe 10 minutes of the movie. I don't want to give the whole plot away, but he wasn't in a lot of the movie. I guess you've probably seen the trailers and shit if you, I don't know. I didn't see the trailers, to be fair, but I'm trying not to give it away. He wasn't in a lot of the movie, which I think was maybe a missed opportunity, because I really like J.K. Simmons. I think he's a really good actor. And I think I would have liked to see him in that role just a little bit more. But I get why they didn't have him around. But yeah, I feel like that was a bit of a missed opportunity. But again, the movie was already 2 hours. Like, maybe they had more with him in it, and they just didn't. They just decided that wasn't important for the final cut. But Chris Evans was fun. I was kind of surprised to see Charlie Day's wife in it. She's been popping up in a lot of stuff lately. I saw her in another. I think she was in Hot. Was she in Hot Frosty? She was in another pretty big movie. I don't think it was Hot Frosty. It must have been another movie, but she was in a big movie, and I was kind of surprised to see her. She's been kind of popping up. Oh, you know what she was in? She was in the TV show The Man on the Inside. She was the Ted Danson's daughter in that show. And my point is, she's been popping up in more kind of mainstream stuff, and it's been interesting because I'm used to really just seeing her in It's Always Sunny. But she's been popping up in a lot of stuff. It is a bit odd though, because she kind of always plays the same character, aside from Sunny, because Sunny is so, like, her character in Sunny is obviously very different from the characters I see her in now. But she kind of has everything I've seen her in recently, or at least those two, the TV show and the movie. She's always playing like a divorced mom, or like a mom who's overwhelmed. And I wonder why. Like, I don't know. It does kind of suck. I hope she doesn't get boxed into that kind of type of role where she's just like this overwhelmed mom who's kind of cool but also like really stressed. And she played that character in this movie too. So I don't know, maybe that's just what she's being cast in right now, but I was surprised to see her in it. I was surprised to see Lucy Liu in it. I haven't seen Lucy Liu in like a big movie in a long time. I can't even remember the last thing I saw her in, aside from the TV show Elementary, which I don't know if that was very big or not, but yeah, I don't know. Overall, Red One was fine. It wasn't. Don't go into it thinking like it's gonna be this fucking masterpiece, because I don't. That's not what it's meant to be. Again, it's a kids movie. Like, it's really geared towards children. So I always find it interesting when critics go into these movies and actually critique it like it's a art film. I just feel like that's so odd. Like, who's going into Red One and going like, I didn't like the shot. I didn't like the shots in this movie. I think, they could have done so much more with some more interesting and artistic depictions of this situation. It's just like, come on, dude. Like, it's a fucking big budget Christmas movie. As The Rock, it has Captain America, it has fucking J.K. Simmons. Like, it's not, it's not Whiplash. It's a kid's movie. It's a fucking Christmas movie. So, I don't know. But that's, that's critics. They're just, it's odd when, I guess I kind of wonder what the role of critics is now in entertainment. Like, do movie studios actually care about critics as much as they used to? Because I know, I would assume pre-internet, critics were probably a huge deal, because your only exposure to what the movie was through critics, right? Like, in reviews in the newspaper or on TV, and that was probably your only exposure to figure out if the movie was, like, what the vibe on the movie was in terms of if people like it or not. But now it's kind of like, I wonder what the industry thinks about critics, because honestly, I don't think I would listen to a critic's review. Like, there's a lot of movies that I saw where it was kind of hounded by the critics that I thought were great. I can't. I'm trying to think of some that come to mind. In terms of big budget, huge movies, I remember the Planet of the Apes movies. At least I think the first one got some praise, but after the first one, it kind of steadily declined in terms of critics' ratings. And I thought that those movies got stronger. Aside from the last movie, like Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, I thought was a hot piece of garbage. But like the first three Planet of the Apes movies, I thought were incredible. I thought those were great movies. And I thought that they got stronger the more we got further into that timeline and those characters and things like that. But, I don't know what the role of critics, like, I don't know where the critics fit in nowadays, because it seems like most people aren't really interested in critics. They're more interested in the general public's view on it. Like, do people go to Rotten Tomatoes and read the critics' reviews and like that actually influences them? Or is it more of, they go on Twitter, they see this big movie came out, people or sorry, X, I'm going to call it Twitter, fuck it. They go on Twitter and they see, oh man, Red One's getting slammed, but like all these people are saying this movie's shit, like I'm not going to watch it now. Or is it they go to Rotten Tomatoes and they're like, oh man, Dennis from California, who's been a critic for 30 years, said that he didn't like it, I'm not going to watch it, So I'm curious, like, in terms of industry, in terms of like actual studio developers and studio heads, like, do they look at the critics' reviews still in the same manner? Or are they more interested in kind of what the general idea is around the project through social media? I don't know. I'm assuming they don't give a shit about either, and they just look at the money, would be my assumption. Because at the end of the day, like, I mean, you could talk shit about a lot of stuff, but if it's making money, it's making money. Who gives a shit, right? Like, I don't think the studios care too much about the general consensus as long as it made them money. They're probably going to greenlight a sequel. You know what I mean? So I don't know. But yeah, to wrap up that huge tangent, Red One was good. Or was fine. It was fine. It wasn't, it was better than Hot Frosty. I'll say that. But it also had way more potential. Like, it was given a lot more money to work with, whereas I'm sure Hot Frosty was basically a Netflix Hallmark movie. But yeah, I don't know. We don't really have an exciting movie rollout from what I know of. I know 28 Years Later got a trailer, which was shot on an iPhone, by the way. I think that's really interesting. I wonder how much budget that saved them by just having to buy iPhones to film and external hard drives. Probably a good pretty fucking penny. But I know that's coming out at some point, probably next year. But I think we've kind of hit the time of the year where, like, nothing's really coming out. Like, not that I'm aware of, at least that I've seen. Again, like, this whole week I've been kind of out of the loop just because I've been so focused. But I don't think we have any, like, crazy movies coming out. I know it kind of feels like all of the big movies, all the big movies kind of came out already. Like, Red One came out, Gladiator came out, Joker already had its release. Like, it's not really any big budget blockbuster movies coming out this year, I don't think. Again, I could be wrong. I guess Moana 2 came out, depending on, what you consider that movie. It's a cash cow, right? And any animated movie from Disney now is kind of just like, oh, that made $400 million? I had no fucking clue. You know what I mean? But yeah, away from movie talk, I don't know if this will be very relatable to people who, I guess, who don't play Call of Duty or watch Call of Duty competitive, but one of the players on Optic Gaming, or Optic Texas, I don't know, maybe people are interested in this or not, but I'll probably only talk about it for a few minutes. He got kind of randomly released from their roster, and there were really no official statements from anybody, and they had just won a championship. So, it's kind of like dropping, if your team won the Super Bowl and then you kind of just like drop your star wide receiver out of nowhere and there's no real transparency about it. It seems like and I don't want to feed into this too much because, yeah, I mean, people love to run with things and that's just kind of how it goes. And especially on, today's standards where you can make money off Twitter posts and stuff like that now. Rumors are kind of the new currency, as if you can start a rumor and get those clicks, it's the new currency in terms of social media. But it seems like he had a bit of a gambling problem, and then it kind of bled into where he was betting on his own matches, because you can bet on Call of Duty matches now, since it's like I guess technically a league, like a certified league. You can bet on betting platforms, and it seems like he was dropped, or something happened to where he was betting on his own matches, and that's very much against the rules, because you could just bet on the opposite team and try to, throwing your match is strong. Like, it's kind of difficult, I feel like, in Call of Duty to, like, if one person is quote unquote throwing, it's still kind of difficult to, like, that probably wouldn't be the main reason that you lose, but it's still, I think, it's still not great, right? Like, that's still generally bad. But yeah, I think that's been kind of a big deal recently, and I think it bleeds into everything, right? Because it's kind of like, how do you deal with something like that as an organization, right? Like, if you're, let's say you're a team owner of any sport or any esport, and your player's like a gambling addict and he's in debt, and now he's also betting on your own matches. Like, I don't know what you do in that situation. But the whole situation was just odd, because it kind of came out of nowhere. They picked up another player, announced it, and they just said, like, oh, it's personal reasons. And that was pretty much all they said. And there's been no transparency. He hasn't said anything. The team hasn't said anything. The organization as a whole hasn't said anything. The league hasn't said anything. And we kind of had a similar thing like this happen before with another professional player, where he just kind of disappeared and there was no real explanation. And it seemed like the league itself had gone into investigation and, like, investigated something to do with the player. So I'm assuming this is the same thing here. But yeah, for anybody interested in that, I don't know. I hope that, it's a shame. You never want to see anybody who is clearly talented at something and has found their place. I think that's so difficult to have something you're talented in, and it's something you like and something you're good at, and, like, succeed in that. It's so hard nowadays, and it kind of seems like that's on a hiatus for him. So I hope that that's not the case. But it does bring up a weird question of, like, what do you do in a situation? Like, I don't know what I would do as, like, a team owner, because you obviously, this person probably needs help, but at the same time they're breaking the rules. And, like, it seemed like there was some proof that he was also asking around for money and, like, asking fans for money, which is obviously never good. But I don't know what I don't know what you do in that situation. But yeah, that's kind of the Call of Duty news for me. But I wanted to bring up an issue I have with Reddit and with troubleshooting. I don't know if any of you guys have had this problem, but when you're trying to fix something and you don't know why it's broken, and you go on Reddit or on YouTube or whatever, and all you see is everybody saying they have the same problem, but there's no fucking fix, it's got to be one of the most frustrating things. And it's been a thing for like a decade. Like, ever since I've had access to internet and computers, it's been a thing where you'll look something up, like, I got this error code on this game, or my Windows thing fucked up, and you Google it, and there's a Reddit post, and the guy's like, hey, I have this problem, and there's 3,000 comments, and every fucking comment just says, yeah, I also have this problem. Let me know if you find a fix. Yep, I got this problem too. It's like, hey, you replying that you have the same problems, not super helpful. Like, I don't know. Like, I was going to stream today. I was going to stream the new Indiana Jones game because I'm an Indiana Jones fan. I thought, I haven't streamed in a while. I have the time. I'll stream it. I start the game. It crashes before it even launches. And then the game doesn't launch. Like, it'll launch, and then it'll say, hey, your game crashed. You want to launch it in safe mode? Yes or no? I hit no. Didn't launch. I hit yes. Didn't launch. I verified the game files, didn't launch. I fucking, went into the files for the game and changed a few things, it still didn't launch. And I Googled it, and everyone has the same fucking problem, and no one has a fix, and I don't know what to do. So, like, I'm just re-downloading the game now, hoping that I can maybe stream it tomorrow or something. Because it's a huge game. It's like 140 gigs. And so it's like, I gotta re-download it, and if it breaks again, then I don't know what to do. And granted, I didn't pay for it. It was, and I think this might be the problem, is I'm launching it through the Xbox launcher on PC, because it's free with Game Pass, and it's like, I'm not gonna pay $100 for, or whatever, $80 for a new game, if it, Like, why? If it's free, why would I do that? So that might be an issue, but I just wanted to air that out because it's one of the things that bothers me the most. And I understand, like, I get why they say, oh, it, you know, like, oh, I have the same problem, because it shows that there's a lot of people with the same problem. But it's kind of like, man, like, I don't know, like, don't reply to a post about that unless you have a fix for it, because then someone who has a fix for it is going to get lost in the weeds of the 2,000 people that have the same problem, you know? I guess upvoting could fix that, but sometimes I've had to scroll like 4 pages down and then I finally find the solution. And it's like, well, maybe if these dumb fucks didn't just put that they're all fucking, you know, they all have the same broken piece of shit thing, we'd be able to find a solution for it. But anyway, that was my tangent about broken things that shouldn't be broken. But yeah, it's a shame because I was really excited to play it, and I've specifically stayed away from gameplay and reviews and stuff like that because I want to play it on my own and kind of have my own opinion about it. But yeah, I guess that's gonna have to wait till tomorrow because it's now my launcher. There's another problem with launchers, by the way, and I don't know if you guys pay attention to this stuff. I'm assuming most of you play video games because most people play video games now. When you download something through a launcher, each launcher has like a different, almost like download system where, you know, like Steam basically caps your download speed after a certain point, or it'll, you know, base your download based on like if you're using SSD or HDD, and it'll like fuck with your download speeds. Blizzard has a good download system where you can uncap the speeds and then you'll get like accurate download speeds. Xbox doesn't have that, at least on Windows, on the Windows app. So like it was downloading at like, you know, 600 megabytes or whatever. I have fiber, so it was getting up to close to a gig, and then I re-downloaded the game, and now I'm not getting over 100 megabytes. So it's like every fucking launcher has a stupid system that doesn't make sense. Like, why wouldn't you just let me download the game based on my speeds that I have, that I pay for? But yeah, I don't know. I'm not an engineer, so maybe there's a reason for that, but I feel like there's not a reason for it. But yeah, anyway, if anyone's played Indiana Jones, let me know what you think, I guess. Don't spoil anything, if there's even anything to spoil. It's a fucking game, so I feel like there's not much to spoil there, but yeah, anyway, I think I'm going to wrap it up. I went a bit above time. I had some rants, but I hope everyone's final season went well, and I hope that, you know, it's either over, it's almost over, and you did great. You know, make sure to take care of yourself. I think it's one of the things we all kind of neglect ourselves when we get really stressed, but you know, your health comes first. Don't fuck yourself over there. But yeah, anyway, thank you for watching. Hopefully, I want to try to keep a every other day schedule for this. I don't know if I'll be able to keep that up. I have some travel coming up and stuff like that, but I'll do my best. But yeah, thanks for all the support, by the way, on the live streams. It's really weird. Live stream on YouTube has kind of opened up this thing for me where I don't, you know, I can still gain new viewers and new subscribers while I'm not live, you know, because a lot of people watch VODs. You know, some of my biggest watch time hours come from the VODs over the past like 2 weeks. So I just want to thank anybody if you watch the stream and you're watching this. Thank you, I appreciate it. And yeah, I'll call it there. I'll see you guys hopefully the day after tomorrow. Bye bye.